Raise your hand if you were not here for the first half. A few people. OK, so basically the format is we've got a series of 10-minute segments. They're pretty rapid fire. They're basically just highlights of some of the features that were recently introduced in RHEL 6.3 as well as upcoming releases. So it's a pretty quick session. If you want more details, we're going to have references and pointers throughout. Also, if you didn't get it already, we are passing out a handout, and the handout includes some pointers, references to other sessions, and some online information to get some more resources. Also, one thing we neglected to do at the prior session, so you're going to get double game points for attending this one. So the game check-in code for the last session was 1161. Okay, 1161. That was for the prior session, but you get extra points. And at the end of this session, we will tell you what it is for this session. So by quick way of introduction, we're going to have these sessions presented by our engineering leaders and managers on our teams here. In the first half, what you missed was I did a basic introduction. Dorla Orr did virtualization. Linda Wang did a lot of the kernel virtual memory processing handling features. Peter Martocelli did hardware, and Tom Coughlin did storage, low-level storage. So what we've got first on this half is Rick Wheeler, who's going to talk about file system. Then next, Denise Dumas is going to talk about base OS commands and utilities features. Jack Ryden's going to talk about security enhancements. Jonathan Blanford will be discussing desktop features. And Matt Newsom will be talking about developer tool features. Please hold your questions to the end because we've got a lot of material to get through. If we have time at the end, we'll answer some questions, but we're going to have to promptly end at our allocated time because there's going to be the next talks. So with that, our next speaker is going to be Rick Wheeler. So I'm just backing it up because we went a little out of order.
Thank you, Tim. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rick Wheeler. I manage the file system team, and I also manage Red Hat storage engineering, which are two different things. Different groups. So one thing I think that's really interesting on the file system front is we used to have very few choices for RHEL. How many people here use ext3 as their file system still? Shame on you. It's really slow. Yeah. So Red Hat, I think, is one of the more dominant powers in the world of file systems. Even in RHEL 5, we went to a lot of extra effort to backport and refresh your choices and gave you a lot more choice. Just by moving to ext4 on your same hardware, you'll go faster, and your data will be safer. Both good things. But again, historically, ext3 was your only choice. NFS was what you used for client-server stuff. GFS1 was our clustering HA solution. All of that changed in the lifespan of RHEL 5. We added ext4, GFS2, XFS, and added Fuse for those of you who have weird, exotic user space file systems. One of which is, one example of that is Gluster, one of the core component of Red Hat storage. RHEL 6 added two new things. We added a tech preview of Btrfs. Anybody use Btrfs yet? Some brave developers, brave users. Btrfs is in RHEL 6 as a tech preview. We love for people to try it. We don't want you to put your job at risk. Don't put your enterprise database on it yet. But we love feedback, right? If we don't get feedback, we don't know that it's ready to go into the next phase of full production support. In Parallel NFS. Parallel NFS is the newest version of the NFS protocol. It brings you much higher streaming bandwidth. It gets around the bottleneck of having a single metadata server and all the data go through that same box. Now you can get your metadata from the server and data from many data sources. And we're working with, like with any tech preview, to bring them into full production support. So what do we do in RHEL 6? One of the most interesting thing is we have in RHEL 6.2 support for clustered Samba on top of GFS2. We also had the tech preview for PNFS. There are 3 PNFS types. If you don't know them, you probably don't care. But file layout is the one used by NetApp and some other vendors like IBM and some other people. That's in tech preview in RHEL 6.2. We're working on backports for the object and block layout, which are used object by Panasys, block by vendors like EMC. We also fixed in RHEL 6.2 long-standing part of the XFS design, which made it very slow for some very specific workloads, like very file creation workloads were relatively slow. We've actually fixed the way XFS does journaling now, and it's now setting record performance against other file systems. RHEL 6.3 had a lot of focus on improving the performance of the GFS2 file system and also got a lot of stability enhancements in. And we added support for ODirect for fuse-mounted file systems. Again, that was a little selfish, but that was motivated by file systems like the Gluster in Red Hat Storage, which needs it to do support for virtualized KVM guest and for other type of workloads. We're going to continue to give you more choices in RHEL 7. Today, still, we don't give you full support at install time for anything, but in RHEL 7, you'll be able to choose between ext4, XFS, and Btrfs as your file system. You'll be able to install with that choice for your system partitions and for your data. So you'll be able to try any of those three that work for you. ext2 and ext3 will continue to be supported. So those of you who are really slow when we do RHEL 7 will still be able to use it, but we're going to cheat, and we're going to make you use the ext4 code in the kernel. So if you're going to be using ext4, we encourage you to try to remake an ext4 file system so you just go faster. We've been doing that, by the way, I think people mentioned in the earlier session. The way we do this all is we bring it upstream first, we integrate in Fedora. Fedora releases have been using the ext4 driver for ext2 and ext3 for since last release. So if you haven't noticed, that's a good thing. If you noticed, let us know if there's a bug or any performance concerns. Storage System Manager is a new project we have. Anybody use LVM here? Hopefully. It can be, for those of you who aren't experts in storage and nerdy file system options, it can be a little daunting. So what we try to do is attack some of the complexity of file system and LVM use by having something called the Storage System Manager project, which is basically a Python wrapper around LVM with ext4 or LVM with XFS to allow you to do the most common operations in a really ease-of-use way. It's a new project. It's not in production use. There's a pointer here to the project page. Feedback we'd love from our users and our customers. Number one, does it work for you? And number two, did we do all the things you care about? Our goal is not to replace every command that LVM or makefist gives you or whatever, but to at least do the common things. So give it a try. It'll hopefully bring some of the ease of use that Btrfs and other file systems like ZFS have to ext4 and XFS as well. In RHEL 7, we also hope to, well, not hope, we've done it in upstream. We will have full support for all three flavors of parallel NFS layouts, the block object and file layout. Another theme in RHEL 7 will be increasing the maximum size of file systems. Anybody here have a 500 terabyte file system on a disk? Okay. No one. Okay. 100? Anybody hit 100? Okay, so 100, that's good. If you're supported customers, you shouldn't have 500 terabytes. That's kind of a trick question. 100 is the maximum we support today, but we have had pressure from some very specific HPC workloads and some very large users to go beyond that 100 terabyte limit. So the goal is to get beyond that for XFS specifically, to bring that up to 500 terabytes. GFS2, we're going to bump to 250 terabytes for a single file system. Btrfs and ext4 both will exceed this current 16 terabyte limit that we have for ext4. We haven't figured out enough from performance scalability testing how high we're going to go, but we are going to go probably larger with Btrfs than we will with the ext4. ext4 has some basic design performance scalability challenges with some large files and really large systems. And one thing that's really important to note, our limits are actual tested limits. These aren't theoretical limits. If you go to Google and you search around for maximum file system size or something, you always see exabytes and zottabytes and stuff like this. No one's ever done it, right? If you bet your day job on it, you're gonna be flipping burgers or something, right? So we try to actually only claim support for stuff that we've tried in the labs and that our field support people have in the labs to back you up when things go wrong. Network file systems are really actually one of the more popular things, especially with virtualization. It's a very common way for people to store their data. RHEL 7 NFS is going to add the last two layout types for PNFS. We're also going to be pursuing the new support for labeled NFS, which allows us to do fine-grained SELinux attributes to give you better, secure virtualization support. We'll also be pursuing and evaluating some of the new NFS spec 4.2 features, which let you do copy offload and other things like that. In RHEL 7, we're also focusing a lot on the SMB protocol. We have dedicated developers working not just on the Samba identity management aspects, but also the Samba SMB3 protocol support in the Samba product, which allows you to serve data up from local file systems to Windows clients. And the CIFS kernel module, just for confusion, is the kernel module that lets you talk to Windows servers. So we're working on that as well. The plan is to get SMB3 support into Samba, and we will be significantly upgrading the capabilities of the CIFS kernel module. Reaching full SMB3 capability will be really difficult. So pretty much, I think we have a ton of talks. If anyone noticed, we have this Red Hat storage product that was announced today. There's a ton of talks on that. It's all built on top of all the things that we've talked about here in the RHEL thing. It is RHEL with XFS and LVM underneath the covers. Go check out those talks. If you're interested in NFS, Steve Dixon, our NFS lead, has a talk tomorrow afternoon. There's a campground as well on kind of future protocols work. So NFS users, I encourage you to go there. As usual, I encourage everybody to find people. If you see Red Hat people sitting at a table with other Red Hat people, butt in, kick the other Red Hat people out, and ask the people the questions. Right? It's a good way to do it, right? I mean, we're here to meet you all. We're not here to just talk to the people we have coffee with at the office. So that will jump to the next speaker.
Hi, my name's Denise Dumas, and I run the Base OS team for the platform group. And Base OS covers installation and packaging, so things like yum and RPM. And it also covers lots of the core functions, so the commands and utilities and daemons, and the odds and ends, Postgres, Apache, God help me, Ruby. Whoops. So I'm going to talk about some of the changes that we've done for 6.3 and 5.9 and some of the work that we're looking at for RHEL 7. Starting with the installation new features in 6.3, we added a couple of new options to the kickstart vol group command. We let you now specify the initially unused space when you create a volume group. So why do you care, right? Well, in 6.2, we added a yum plugin that lets you do snapshots and rollbacks. And so the problem with that is that you need to have enough space reserved in your volume group to take advantage of that. So we wanted to make it easy, so we've integrated that into Anaconda. And maybe when thin provisioning for snapshots comes out of tech preview, we won't need that anymore, but for right now, hey, belt and suspenders, right? For large memory systems, so we've set it up now so that large memory systems receive a more appropriate swap size when you do the installation. So if you've done an installation with some of our defaults, you see that you get memory size plus 2 gig. And for a large memory system, that can be a tad excessive, maybe not what you want. So we've reworked the algorithms that decide on what swap size is going to be. And if you look in the tech notes for 6.3, you'll find a table that'll tell you exactly how it all works, which is something that people have been asking for. If you're on a slow network, if you're doing an install to a remote location, sometimes you'll be in a situation where package transfers fail, so your installations would be failing out from underneath you. So we've added 3 retries of failed package transfers when you're doing the package downloads now. And of course, there's a fallback in the middle there. And then working with Tom's storage team, we've improved some of the FCOE support that's in the installer. So the VLAN discovery option for FCOE devices sets up configuration. And let's see. And we set up ifconfig for the network devices that are used for installation to FCOE storage devices. So they got automatically activated when you reboot, so you don't have to go in and clean up your multipath support now. RHEL 7 is going to be fun for installation. The user interface for the installer has been completely rewritten. It hasn't quite landed in Fedora 18 yet, but if you watch over the next few weeks, you'll see it show up there. If you're out in the in the partner areas, in the Red Hat booth, the installer team has a demo, so you can see what this is going to look like. But they've moved to a hub and spoke model, so instead of the 14 screens that it used to take you, next, 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 they've got 3 main hubs that you can just walk through, and you don't have to go and do a lot of configuration unless you don't like our defaults. But you love our defaults, right? So it's really actually, I think, going to be a big improvement. And if you want to see it, the Anaconda team is hanging around. They're also going to be around the Fedora booth. Let's see. Another thing that they did that makes product management happy is that they cut down on the memory footprint that you need in order to do an installation. So this lets us support small servers, but of course you guys are probably not deploying 512 meg servers, right? But the good thing that that really gets us is that memory footprint that you need for installation is also what determines the minimum size of a virtual guest that we can support. So they've got it down to 512 meg, and I'm not supposed to say this, but well, they under some circumstances, they've been able to get it smaller, so we'll see how good we can make it. But that actually is really good news because it means that we'll be able to support smaller guest sizes. They took the stage 1 loader functionality and merged it with Drake-it. Well, so what, right? Well, the Anaconda team, and probably some of you guys, got tired of troubleshooting the case where the installer booted, but the system didn't boot afterwards, or the installer wouldn't boot even though the installed system later on was able to boot fine. It was because the init RAMFS, we were generating it differently. So now we're going to be generating it the same way. Drake-it will set it up both ways. So we set up one less thing to troubleshoot. We're switching to Grub 2, so you got a more modern bootloader, better support for non-x86 devices, scripting, other nice things. Web-based enterprise management. So WebM has been around for a lot of years. WebM and SIM, the Common Information Model. It's a DMTF standard. It standardizes remote clients accessing SIM-on brokers, which are basically servers that talk to providers that serve up information about your system. So there's an enormous schema that's defined in SIM, but you kind of need an enormous schema when the problem space is enormous. So in RHEL 5 and RHEL 6, we include OpenPegasus and SFCB, which are in the TOG Pegasus and Sublime packages. And those are the SIM-on brokers that we've got. And we have a lot of providers around in 5 and 6 as well. Mostly they do things like monitoring, although you can set up like DNS. But we're looking at adding a lot more providers to RHEL 7, and hopefully then being able to backport some of it to 5 and 6. So we're looking at configuring networks, configuring storage. So there's SMIS and SMASH. In 6.3, we added libvirt SIM, so there's virtualization management through a SIM provider. So there's a campground breakout session that's going to happen Thursday at 4:50. And we really want to understand whether people think this is a good direction, what you'd like to see there. We've got a survey that we're asking people to take. And if you take the survey, you might win a really cool Shadowman keyboard. Yeah, you've seen these around, right? There's one over at the Fedora booth. Those nice red ones, they are really nice. So please take the survey and tell us what you want to see in system management. Oops. NUMID. So performance tuning assistance. We've been mentioning this at a lot of different performance talks through the summit, but NUMID, if you're deploying NUMA servers, which all of you are, because that's the only kind of server you can get anymore, you know that then your applications get a lot better performance when when they are referencing memory that's on the same NUMA node as the CPUs that their threads are running on. So a lot of people, if you have an in-house wizard, you do the hand tuning with NUMA control so that you can pin your applications, your long-running applications, so that you can get the improved performance, because you really don't want applications referencing faraway memory, because you can see slowdowns anywhere from 20 to 500% in the time that it takes to reach the remote memory. So if you don't have an in-house wizard, NumaD is going to go a long way towards getting you better application performance on your NUMA systems. I have to hurry because I'm going to get gonged, but NumaD, go check it out. There's a K-base article that's going to be showing up next week, and it's most effective for moderately loaded systems with long-running processes that use significant resources. So all of you that are running KVM guests are going to see some benefit if you decide, go kick the tires. Packaging features. So Yum and Anaconda and LVM2 integration. Well, I mentioned the snapshot feature, the LVM snapshots that you can do now with Yum plugins. For RHEL 7, we want to integrate that tightly with Anaconda, and that makes it possible for us to at least do better support of RHEL 6 to RHEL 7 updates rather than having to do a fresh install. This is not necessarily something you would do on your production server, but you know, and of course it'll come with a bunch of caveats, but it at least gives you a better ability than we've had in the past to do snapshot rollbacks. We've got parallel downloading now in Yum so that as you're downloading the packages, we speed it up because we can download multiple packages in parallel. We've improved handling of comps groups that change between minor releases. And RPM, you're going to see lots of improved performance and robustness. We've got a whole bunch of cleanup there. Some of the sample core package updates that we've done in 6.3, well, BaseOS owns a ton of the packages that are the backbone of RHEL. So this is just a look at some of the things that we've done. We've fixed a whole lot of bugs. Hopefully we fixed your favorite bug. We've added Yum utils show changed RCO. Bind got updated so that we're reducing log file pollution. We fixed named so that it uses port reserve so that you don't get port conflicts there. We upgraded Nmap to include some performance enhancements that people have been asking for quite a while. rsyslog got updated so that you've got rate limiting added now. And last but not least, 5.9, it is alive. We did some GoScript updates, so we improved support for PDFA, the PDFA file format. That's the isolized version of PDF that's aimed at long-term archiving. We added IOTop, so you can track device I/O on a per-process basis, which is actually good when you're hunting down the problems. K-shell, we fixed a whole lot of very popular bugs. Very unpopular bugs, I guess. Sorry. There's a new version of Unix ODBC. So we did a refresh of Unix ODBC. The old one is still there. You can install this one in parallel. We gave it a different name, so you can do that. A lot of people wanted to see the newer version, so we've got it there. Curl got updated so it can negotiate proxy support. And Tim's favorite, we added LED mon so that we can make the little blinky lights on the MD RAID arrays blink. Yes. It's the lights. Yeah. So there are all sorts of summit sessions that are related. Please go and talk to the system management folks. Go to the Sim Campground because we've got Tomasz Smetana and his guys in from the Czech Republic. They want to talk with you. They want to hear what you want there. And you could win the keyboard. And it's my last one, so we can't do this again next year. The Anaconda guys are hanging out at if you missed the campground, they're hanging out over at the Fedora booth. There's a talk about the automatic bug reporting tool in the campground tonight. There's a Yum how-to video out on the portal. So there's some basic Yum stuff, and I think it talks about the snapshot too. There's a developer day talk on packaging with RPM, okay? And I'm getting gonged, but there's a K-base on NumaD that's going to be out real soon now on a portal near you. So thank you. And
thanks, Denise. So my name is Jack Reed, and I am the manager for the RHEL security team. And we're going to go over a few topics today: SELinux, SCAP, software assurance, standards, and some upcoming security features. So how many people know about SELinux? How many turn it off? Okay. So we're constantly trying to improve SELinux, and I know you guys have faced challenges trying to use it too, but we are always looking for your input and how we could make this better. Some of the improvements we've been making are with MLS policy for meeting the common criteria and certification. And updated documentation. We've now added, I believe, 400 man pages to SELinux policy to help you understand what SELinux is actually doing. And then usability improvements with SE Troubleshoot to help you diagnose what's going on. A new feature that's coming out in RHEL 7 is secure containers. You probably already heard a little bit about this, but it's leveraging SELinux with SVirt and control groups for multi-tenancy to allow you to run an application basically in a secure sandbox. We're very excited about looking at this. And if you're interested in what's going on with SELinux, Dan Walsh is Mr. SELinux in effect, and he has a blog that goes over current issues, what's going on, how he's solving them, and it's always very entertaining to see what he's doing. Next is the Security Content Automation Protocol, SCAP. This is basically allowing you to set up your security configurations, your checklists, your policies, and to be able to keep your machines or your environment in compliance. There's a whole list of standards and specifications on the left here. I could go through all of those, but I promised I wouldn't do that. And in the interest of time, right? Okay. So, but we've been supporting this since its inception of the standard. We're active on a lot of the committees, and the focus there is to making sure that the standards move along towards supporting Linux and making sure that Linux it's got its best interest in case there. We support it in both RHEL 5 and 6, and it's compliant with the suite of SCAP, which is 1.1 right now. We're currently working on 1.2, and that should be out shortly. One nice thing that we've done is integrate this with Spacewalk, which is the upstream for satellite. Software assurance. This is extremely important to us here at Red Hat. If you can tell what the JPEG is here, this is from a MITRE talk that they gave on software assurance a year or two ago, and it really kind of goes over some of the challenges of building software, even security software, any kind of software in an unsecure environment. You got to make sure that you're following the best practices and looking at how you're doing different things. And one of the ways we manage this is using common criteria. This is a very extremely long process. It takes a lot of testing, a lot of documentation, and our third-party lab actually does a full code review of the security target that we're looking at when we go through a certification. We just recently received, within the last 2 months, a 5.6 certification for RHEL with virtualization and KVM, and we're currently in the final stages, thank God, of the 6.2 base OS and virtualization with KVM. Some of the new features that we've added here are remote logging to servers with audit. DMCrypt is brand new for going through the certification or disk encryption, and automatic screen locking. One of the other things it's relatively new is within the last year, we've been running all RHEL packages through static analysis. These tools have helped us a lot as far as showing bugs that we can not normally see. And we're always looking in the future of what we're going to do next, and that's in some of the fuzzing and other technologies out there. And of course, there's more standards and certifications. So these are the US standards. FIPS is probably the most well-known among these, and that's the certification for your crypto algorithms for use in government. Right now we have 5.4, which we certify 4 crypto libraries and packages. And 6.2 we'll do in 7, and that's again with the new DMCrypt. And what's interesting to note here is once we actually certify these for FIPS, that certification stays with the RHEL release, so until we do another certification. So we do not change the crypto boundary for that certification between the releases. So if you're getting 6.3, it'll still have that certification for FIPS. Of course, when we do have to make some changes, then we'll go through either another revalidation or certification. What's new is here is USGV6. This is replacing the old IP6 Ready Logo program for IP6 networking. And we support this both in RHEL 5 and RHEL 6.2 with our IPsec packages OpenSwan. Yet another standard that has replaced another one is the GCB. This replaces the old FDCC, which is the desktop core configuration. This is basically just defining a set of minimal security configurations for desktops for use in the government. And we support that with RHEL 5 because there's a baseline out. The Rails 6 baseline is coming out shortly, and once that's out, we will be supporting that. Upcoming security features. Denied ptrace. Again, with SELinux, we're using that to allow or disallow processes to pre-trace another process. The AES mode of counter mode, or CTR, is we just slipped that into our FIPS certification under 6.2. So when that comes out when we finally get the final certification, that will be under FIPS certified module. Pseudo integration is allowing you to pick up these rules from remote directories like an LDAP server with SSSD, which is our system security services daemon within IPA. And SecComp is a very interesting library that we're using for virtualization security to reduce the attack surface by limiting the number of system calls that a guest can actually perform. We feel this is a very powerful tool in security here. And also there's the centralized management of SSH keys with IPA. And finally, Windows AD integration. We've got a lot of requests for this, and this is to do user authentication and having a machine joining a domain seamlessly, making this very simple for you to do this instead of the 100-page sets of documents that we've seen that do this. And finally, some references. So Mr. SELinux is talking tomorrow at 1:20 on multi-tenancy. I encourage you to go see him. It's always entertaining. Our federal group maintains a certification page that goes through all the certifications, not only for RHEL, but also for JBoss. So if you're interested in where we're at in process or what has been actually certified, you can check out the site. And our Open SCAP project for SCAP, which is very lively at the moment right now with the SCAP 1.2 stuff work. Next is the AD integration on the Fedora page, and then the SecComp, which is under Paul Moore, has got a nice little blog on that. And with that, I will pass it over to Jonathan to find out all the cool stuff they're doing in desktop.
Thank you, Jack. So hi, I'm Jonathan Blandford. I run the desktop group at Red Hat. We're responsible for all the bits that you basically see, or most of them anyway, so it's X on up. I want to talk a little bit about what we've done for RHEL 6 to keep the desktop fresh and give you a basic sense of what we're doing to sort of keep that moving forward. Our strategy, there are about 400 or 500 packages or so that put together a working desktop, and it's not realistic to upgrade all of them during the course of a minor release. So our basic strategy for RHEL 5 and continuing for RHEL 6 is to try and keep hardware updated and try and keep the applications updated while holding user space the same. So in RHEL 5 and 5.2 we upgraded X, in 5.4 we upgraded X, and we did something similar in 5.6 as well. We have upgraded a bunch of applications too, and that's continued for RHEL 6 as well. So I'm going to go through some of the stuff we've done in 6.2 and 6.3. So let's start with graphics first. Excuse me. In 6.2, we did a pretty giant server rebase and brought in all the new drivers at that point. We had support for Sandy Bridge and Ivy Bridge on the Intel side, Cayman Fusion and Llano on the AMD side, a bunch of MDA cards too, and then on the NVIDIA side, we have the free drivers, the Nouveau free driver, which has come a long way since 6.0 was released, so we support many more of the NVIDIA cards out of the box now than we did previously. With 6.2, we also added DisplayPort support for the Nouveau-based drivers. This is pretty important for if you have one of those monitors, but also if you have a newer laptop, we're seeing a lot of the internal displays are connected internally via DisplayPort, so it was important to get the internal LCD screen to show up. A couple other items of note. We added render support to the MGA driver. What's render? It stands for resize and rotate, but it's basically the thing that means that you can hot plug a monitor into your computer and have an external projector show up. The MGA chips are super popular amongst server class hardware, so if you're in the server room with your crash cart and you just plug in your monitor, it should just come right up now. So that's a nice new feature. If you've got a ThinkPad, we fixed an enormous number of suspend and resume issues with that series, and bug fixes all around. Moving on from a hardware perspective, one other thing that showed up in 6.3 that I'm pretty happy with is people use tablets and Wacom tablets. So for those of you who don't know, those are the things that you draw on. They're popular in some of the more creative things, so movie studios and engineering people will tend to use those. And we had somewhat Baroque, or maybe Rococo, but we had some pretty awful support for this previously, and it's now being cleaned up sufficiently. We had support for some nice new tablets, including the Cintiq 24HD, which is pretty awesome. It's a 65-pound monster. It's literally this big. But some of the smaller tablets as well. And we did this both with a customer and a partner, or with Wacom, to put this work upstream first, and then we released it almost simultaneously in both Fedora and in RHEL. And just to give you an idea, that was the old one looks like on the left, the new tablet on the right. It's all nice and plug and play and easy to use. Moving on. Network Manager and networking in general. Spent a lot of time on 6.3 improving the networking stack, all the way, from server class features all the way up through desktop and laptop features. A lot of wireless features went in. We did an enormous number of fixes for Wi-Fi roaming, in particular with a certain subset of Cisco routers. Added support for Eat Fast authentication. This is important if you have it, and I guess not if you don't, but it's important to make it work at all for that kind of environment. And we added better token-based support too, so we had some issues where tokens weren't being registered correctly, and that was annoying. We had initial support for IP over InfiniBand in Network Manager. This is kind of interesting. It's what Anaconda uses to set up IP over InfiniBand. And as we'll get to later, we're extending the support for that in the user interface as part of this initiative. And also along those lines, Vonding and VLAN has also landed initial support there for Network Manager, and we're continuing to see a set of the server class networking stuff being available there, and VPN fixes too. Moving on to the application stack, we added LibreOffice. This is actually, we moved from OpenOffice 3.2.1 to LibreOffice 3.4.5. That is just a coincidence, but this was a pretty enormous change for those who are following that. LibreOffice is a fork from OpenOffice. It started about 2 or 3 years ago. It's a community-based distribution, and it's an enormous improvement if you haven't seen it yet. It starts about twice as fast as previously, if not faster. It's significantly cleaner. A lot of little things were fixed, too many to count at some level. But if you do want to see it, it's an enormous improvement in every way for users. I also threw in the calc maximum row count is increased. OpenOffice had a hard limit of 32,000 rows that was a fairly popular bug, so that was upgraded too. Firefox. So this isn't a new thing. We've been trying to keep Firefox fresh for a while inside the distribution. Firefox is kind of a special case. It is the biggest attack and web browsers in general are basically the biggest attack vector of any operating system. You just see that time and again. People, bad guys like to go after browsers. And it's very complicated, a modern browser. So that means that Firefox and Thunderbird get updated about every 6 weeks on average. This is about common for Internet Explorer and Chromium as well, but that's our upgrade policy there. So what we've ended up doing is treating this as almost an out-of-band package, and we just update it as part of a security update every 6 weeks. And then what we've done is we've adopted the enterprise support release model that Firefox has and moved to a newer version. We did it roughly concurrently with RHEL 6.3. But it's pretty cool. It supports a lot more of the web. It's much faster. And turned on WebGL support. You don't see too many pages with that yet, but you never know. And if you need it, you need it. And then also do not track support is added. I think this is pretty cool. The president called it out as an important thing, so I agree with that. It makes the web a lot less creepy anyway. And then we did this simultaneously for both RHEL 5 and RHEL 6. So we're keeping the browser basically up to date in 5 and 6. I just wanted to do a quick note on desktop virtualization. That's also part of our group. Primarily, a lot of our focus in the RHEL 6 timeframe for desktop integrated virtualization is focused on the Rev product, but we do have a few things in there that are worth calling out. Spice was added to 6.0, and it's been improved and updated every release since then. If you're using RHEL 6.3 as a guest, so if you've seen the Spice Cafe out in the hallway downstairs, that got significantly better between 6.2 and 6.3, so you can use RHEL as a guest within Rev and KVM. And see support for external monitors, multiple monitors, and in addition, some pretty big speed improvements. Another big thing that landed in 6.3 is local USB pass-through. So if you have a guest and you want either Windows or Linux or whatever guest it happens to be, we now have native USB support that doesn't need an add-on and a third-party add-on to make it work. So you should just be able to plug in a USB device into the desktop, and if you're using a guest through Virt Manager or a Virt Viewer or something like that, you have access to that. And then also we are now shipping all the Windows drivers. We didn't ship it previously for a number of reasons, but we now ship all the drivers in 6.3. So if you get the VirtIO Win package, you should be able to find everything, including your graphics drivers, for Windows available there. So looking forward a bit. 6.4, we're still very much in the planning phase, talking to customers, support, product management, etc. So this is not really, fully based down. But the two big things that I do know that are coming is we are planning another X server rebase. We did this for 6.2. We're targeting it for 6.4 as well. This will bring in a large number of new servers, new chip architectures. And we're also planning a network manager rebase as well. The big thing with this one will be user interfaces for some of the earlier technologies I mentioned, including bonding and VLAN and IP over InfiniBand. And then looking forward to the future, RHEL 7. We have a lot coming. It's going to be a huge change. Too much for one slide in 10 minutes. So what I would say is that we do have a demo in the RHEL area. We're giving demos of GNOME 3 and the new desktop. It's a huge change, and we've done some pretty exciting things there. So if you're interested in it, please come by and take a look. We've been giving demos all day. We have a dedicated demo for that, and we have an Android Galaxy tablet available, so you can fill out a survey and get a chance to win it. That's basically it. So we'll switch over to Matt Newsom now and go through tools.
Thanks, Jonathan. So my name is Matt Newsom. I'm the engineering manager for the toolchain team. I'm from London, England, so if you're wondering what's up with my accent, that's the reason. Okay. So I'm going to be talking to you. I'm responsible for the compilers that go into Fedora and RHEL. I'm going to be talking to you today about four main topics. So firstly, reliability, the tools that we provide in RHEL, backed up by the dependable support that you guys need. Leadership, what we've been doing and where we're going with RHEL tools for RHEL 7. Freshness, a new initiative for release of newer tools on older RHEL. And flexibility, the ability to run applications you build with that on multiple RHEL versions. So if we have a look at GCC and GDB, the compiler and the debugger that we put in RHEL, those projects are now 25 years old, and they have the performance and the stability to match that. The tools that we put into base RHEL are supported solidly for 10 years. And that means a service level agreement. It means far in excess of what you get upstream. In RHEL 7, we have a number of innovations. We've been working closely with the ISO Standardization Committee on C++11, notably on extensions for guaranteed atomic memory accesses. This is implemented in GCC today. That builds into our larger parallelism and concurrency work. We've been leading a project called Transactional Memory. If you're familiar with the Intel hardware roadmap for Haswell, it's essentially simpler concurrency. You can group a bunch of source instructions together and have them execute atomically in terms of their effect on memory. So they either completely affect on memory or they roll back, very much like a transaction in a database. On the debugger side, we've been extending the remote debugging capabilities, notably for cloud deployments. We're heavily involved with the Java work. There's a project called OpenJDK, which is a cross-industry project to release free and open source Java. That's supplied in RHEL 6.3 as OpenJDK 7, but we also provide the IBM and Oracle JDKs in RHEL 5 and 6, and JDK 7 is released in RHEL 6.3. For RHEL 7, that time frame, we're looking at introducing a new tool called thermostat. Thermostat's useful for general deployments, but particularly for cloud. And it allows you to monitor, profile, instrument, and manage your Java environment. Let's have a look at some of the performance tools that we have currently in RHEL 5 and 6. So System Tap is a live application analysis tool without you needing to rebuild your application. In RHEL 6.3, we've added remote instrumentation capabilities for cloud. We've extended the support in OProfile and Valgrind, which are respectively an unobtrusive system-wide code profiler and a runtime analysis tool, particularly for memory analysis. OProfile in 6.3 has additional processor support for x86, and Valgrind has additional IBM Power support. In RHEL 7, we're extending System Tap so there's an option to have a pure user space implementation without needing to have anything going on with the kernel. And we're adding 2 additional tools, Performance Copilot, which is a new tool for system monitoring and management, and Dynance, which is a library for runtime code patching. All of these tools that we provide are kind of unified in RHEL 6.3 in the Eclipse IDE. It adds in a kind of best-in-class editor and some great code management features. And that's for C++ development for x86, 32, and 64. In the RHEL 7 timeframe, we're actually looking at releasing Eclipse via a different method, and I'm coming on to that in just a moment. But we'll also be updating to Eclipse 4.2 in the June 2012 stack, unifying the interface for some of the performance tools, and supporting, enhancing our support for remote C and C++ debug and profiling. So let's have a look now at the situation with RHEL GCC. We have in RHEL 5 GCC 4.1 and in RHEL 6 GCC 4.4. And when we put a version of GCC into RHEL, we stand behind that for 10 years. And we will support you to get your applications out and it remains stable. The situation that we've seen is that customers are basically asking us for newer tools on older RHEL to get access to the new features and the new standards. So we've this week, actually yesterday, introduced a new product called Red Hat Developer Toolset. And there's a link there if you'd like to find out more after this talk. Essentially, Toolset provides newer tools on older RHEL. So specifically 1.0, which was released yesterday, is GCC 4.7 and the corresponding version of GDB. They're the very latest versions. And you can run those on RHEL 5 and RHEL 6. If you build an application with a compiler in Toolset, you can then deploy that application to multiple RHEL versions. It will run without any special work need to be done. Most of the application libraries that are required, runtime system libraries like standard C++, are actually linked from the base RHEL system. And all we do is statically link any newer features that the newer compiler requires. So what this means is you get a more frequent release. We're going to do an annual release of Developer Toolset. 6 months later, we will support that for 2 years. It's important to say. 6 months later, we will do a dot update where we'll add in some other components and some bug fixes. And actually, there's an asynchronous stream of updates over the 2-year period. So if there's any bug fixes that you need or any security updates, they will be passed on to you. So some important things to say about Toolset. Toolset is an extra set of tools. It gives you access to the latest GCC release on RHEL 5 and 6. It allows you to get access to those cutting-edge features that we were talking about. It enables you to build your application once, do some smoke testing on various minor versions, and then deploy across RHEL 5 and 6 supported versions. And it actually works really well with the Eclipse in RHEL 6.3 for C and C++ x86 development. Critically, what it doesn't do is it doesn't replace the base compiler. Okay, you still have that. The Developer Toolset GCC goes into the /opt hierarchy, and it's a separate release. It doesn't become the default. You have to use a script to access the compiler, so you can't accidentally use the wrong GCC version. It doesn't impact any of your deployed applications that are already out there. And importantly, it doesn't mean that RHEL toolchain fixes will reduce in any way. This is a parallel offering, and we're supporting both. So in summary, in RHEL 7, we got some great new toolchain, Java, and performance tools features. Now, all of this is backed up by RHEL's 10-year guarantee. And in parallel with that, we now have Developer Toolset with newer GCC, newer GDB, and more tools to come. So it's a new initiative for up-to-date tools on older RHEL. You can build and deploy your application to multiple RHEL versions. And this is available to a number of subscribers to Developer Workstation, Developer Subscriptions, and the Developer Suite. So yesterday I gave a talk for around an hour in the Developer Day sessions. That video was actually recorded, and in due course that'll be placed online. So if you'd like to watch that back or share it with a coworker, that will be available to you. Tomorrow on the Java side, there'll be an OpenJDK talk at 1:20 p.m. in the emerging track. And there will actually be demos in the developer zone of the toolset as well. So actually tomorrow at 2 p.m., if you come by the developer zone in the exhibitor area, then you'll be able to have a hands-on with developer toolset. If you want to get in touch with me, there's an email address there as well as a Twitter handle, and I'm around all week, so if you want to know something about toolset, send me an app message, and I'll be happy to reply or meet up with you. And there's a couple of links there if you'd like to find out more. One is for the developer program, and the other is for the developer toolset specifically. And with that, I will hand back to Tim.
Thank you, Matt. So we'll do a quick summary. I don't think we'll have time to get into questions, but most everybody has given pointers, the references and how to get in touch with them. So in summary, some of the key themes are, you can see that, previously, the whole history of Linux was, it used to be like cobbled together disjoint parts. And so you can see that a lot of the focus we've been trying to have is to improve data center operational efficiency, making it easier to seamlessly manage, deploy, configure, and roll out all of the various offerings. You'll notice we've talked about things like Java enhancements that relate to JBoss. We've done performance enhancements for JBoss. For OpenShift, we have updated container tools, updated Ruby and other package languages. For Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization, we have a whole suite of virtualization performance optimizations as well as management and configuration options. So you can see that we're really looking at focusing RHEL across the suite from bare metal all the way up to virtualization and cloud. And the way we do it is we work upstream with our various upstream communities. We take input from our customers, our partners. We aggregate those requests from not just the hardware vendors, but the software vendors. And the magic we do is we work that all together, and we come up with something that's better and stronger than what any one of us could do together. And the result is we have this huge ecosystem of partners, ISVs, customers, all working together to progress the state of the art. So if all this hasn't popped your head, I've tried to do just one slide of some key takeaways. First off, what we've really seen through these presentations is Red Hat really is driving the innovation space across the whole spectrum of technologies. One thing that's really key to point out is that we only spoke today about the stuff that we're doing. So we weren't, trying to just say, hey, we're parasites of the community and we're just packaging whatever happens to fall in our lap. We're really focusing on, some of the key innovations we're driving. And who better can support, maintain a product than the people who build it? But more importantly, to many customers, it's not just where we are today, it's where we want to go tomorrow. So our customers really like working with Red Hat because they see that we continue to make their data center more efficient and easier to deploy. So the last on the release status, RHEL 5 is a mature base. It's about halfway through its product lifecycle, has another 4.5 years left, and we are still continuing to do another update release worth of hardware enablement. RHEL 6 is in its heavy deployment phase. We have a huge number of customers who are rolling it out, deploying it. It's increasingly becoming the main, for new deployments, this really is the main release currently used today. And as you could see, there's a whole host of features that we're adding to it. RHEL 7, there's a lot of talk here. We've described how a lot of these features are already appearing in Fedora 17, soon to be in the fall appearing in Fedora 18. So it's a great way to preview where we're going in RHEL 7. And our target date for RHEL 7 is that the first beta will appear in the upcoming calendar year, so it's not too far off. Last slide. So I want to thank everyone for attending. I know it was a lot of information. Just to reiterate, a key point I had up front is we are highly receptive to your input and to the format of this presentation. Was it too much, too little? Could we have done it differently? So we look at every one of the input surveys. So please fill out the yellow survey sheet or go on the online mobile app and fill in your feedback there. We would love to hear from you. Keep in mind we have given this handout, which had a lot of the references to what we've spoken to today. The slides will also be appearing posted online under the Summit site, so you'll have that all there. And this session is being video recorded, so you'll be able to play it, watch it again at home. What could be better than that? Last note I will point out is that we do have the other code for the Summit Cup game. And so the number for this session is 1184. And if you happen to have missed the number for the first session, that was 1161. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming to the Red Hat Summit.